Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Speaking Spurs and me, Kieran, talking all things Tottenham. And thank God this season is finally over. Don't have to watch any more of the ups and downs that we've had this season, mostly downs towards the back end. In a season that looked like we were going to try and at least push for top four, and we've somehow ended up finishing in eighth place, 4 places lower than we would have seen as acceptable for this season. But hey ho, at least they gave it a go on the final day, but too little too late. But was it a blessing in disguise? So yeah, we're talking about the Leeds game today, final game of the season. Apologies, I didn't get round to talking about Brentford. Been really busy recently. Had some auditions and stuff like that, so I had lots to focus on. And Tottenham depressing me in the background hasn't happened. And if you're wondering why I'm in the dark, with just a little torch shining on me, different microphone, just testing it out, and I'm just using the app that comes with the microphone today. But camera quality would be better when I'm doing a video during the day, doing this at night. Been out this evening to watch Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Great film, absolutely loved it. Put me in a much better mood. But yes, Tottenham, 8th place, final day, pipped to the post by Aston Villa, who finished in 7th to secure that last Europa Conference League place. Man City obviously clinching the title. Bit of joy in the season. Arsenal missing out on the title. The only bit of joy that we've managed to have. Man United managed to finish third. Newcastle grabbed the last Champions League spot, with Liverpool hitting fifth, and they had a hell of a last game, didn't they? 4-4 against Southampton, and at one point Southampton were very much in control of that game. Brighton, fantastic season, finishing sixth. Aston Villa, again, another great season for them under Unai Emery this time, finishing seventh, and then us in eighth, and Brentford just didn't manage to make it, behind us on 59 points in ninth. So it was very, very tight. You look at that, ninth is 59 points. We had 60, Aston Villa 61, Brighton 62. So it was very, very much tight between 6th, 7th, 8th and ninth. Fulham just didn't have the legs to run it this season. So yeah, let's just talk a bit about the game. Because let's face it, things kind of finally clicked for us. We saw in the Brentford game that Ryan Mason had finally started to get through to the players, played some really nice football. We were very much in control of what we were doing. We just weren't able to put the ball in the back of the net. Definitely ruined our chances. But in this game, very much different. So 4-1 at Leeds. I know they've been poor this season, and their form, it deserved a relegation. But yeah, that wasn't enough for us to earn the place in Europe, because it was very much dependent on the result of Aston Villa. But we got off to a perfect start with Harry Kane firing us ahead in the second minute, converting from 12 yards out after running to Sonny square pass. That goal was the 350th of Kane's career. Absolutely ridiculous. All we're talking about him is numbers, numbers, numbers all the time. Robin Koch and Rodrigo both headed wide. Probably the pick of their chances in the first half, and then they were made to pay for it before some home fans had even returned to their seats after the interval. So Kane turned provider this time, flicking the ball over Liam Cooper before feeding Porro on the right, who shot low and hard and into the bottom left-hand corner. Good strike from him. Porro actually had a very decent game. We've seen a few glimpses of things that he can do. Leeds were offered a glimmer of hope when Jack Harrison reduced the deficit for Leeds in the 67th minute, firing a low-angled shot into the far corner. That made it 2-1. But moments after scoring, Kane got his second of the game after combining again well with Porro on the counter and netting his 280th goal for Spurs. Madness, isn't it? And then late substitute Lucas Moura, who leaves us now at the end of his contract, scored a wonderful solo goal to sign off from Spurs in fairy tale style. And the goal kind of very much summed up Lucas Moura's career with Spurs. He's has great ability, but his career has been reduced to like these pocket moments. Consistency was never the thing for him. So Leeds ended the season 19th in the table. Aston Villa's victory over Brighton meant we finished in 8th place, missing out on a place in next season's Europa Conference League that we were all so looking forward to being in. So look, it's possibly a blessing in disguise. And the reason I say that, look, loads of people won't like me saying that we shouldn't have wanted to finish in a European spot if it wasn't the Champions League or Europa League. But look, I actually think even missing out on a Europa League spot might have been a good thing, just because the club is in such a mess at the moment. Maybe missing out on Europe is exactly what we needed, a chance to recharge, reset. We've got loads of players coming back in, no manager, no director of football, so you get those people in, let the new manager assess the current squad of like 6 million players that are coming back, see what they need. But on top of that, you've then you don't have to make all the signings this summer. They've kind of got till January, knowing that you haven't got all these extra games in between, no European football to contend with. You get the chance to give the players a better chance because you get a week in between games. So look, there are positives in it. Obviously, financially, Europe, great. It's also a chance to bed in some youngsters and stuff like that. But I think for us at the moment, with the amount of mess that we are in, it is the right thing. But yeah, I feel sorry for Leeds. They went into the final day needing only a victory. But relegation rivals Everton and Leicester needed to drop points as well. But since they both won, see you later, Leeds. And they should have changed manager earlier. You brought Sam Allardyce in for 4 games and expected him to keep you up. It's absolutely ridiculous. Was never going to happen. But yeah, if we talk about some stats in the game, love a stat every now and again. We actually still didn't have the lion's share of possession. They came out on top, 52.1%. Our dual success rate, however, was not too bad, 53.4%. We actually lost on aerial duels. Interceptions, we made 12. Both teams only had 1 offside. We only had 3 corners in this game to the 12 that they won. But attacking is where it counts. That we had 11 shots on goal, 7 of them on target, 4 ended up in the back of the net. We had 1 shot blocked, only had 1 shot outside the box, 10 inside, and our shooting accuracy was a 63.6% to the measly 10.5% that Leeds hit, and that has been a problem for them this season. I know they, obviously lost Rafinha to Barcelona in the Brazilian triangle that was Richarlison, Rafinha, and Gabriel Jesus ended up at Arsenal. But look, they actually had 19 shots, only 2 were on target, 5 of them outside the box, 14 inside. Their shooting accuracy 10.5%. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Tackles, we made 26. Our success rate in that 46.2%. We made 46 clearances. That's pretty incredible. Our discipline was very good in this game. No yellow cards, no red cards. But yeah, in terms of that, not too bad. And I'm impressed that after this time, Ryan Mason has finally got us in a place where we were playing better. It makes you wonder what would have happened if he'd have been given more time. And you've got to remember with this game as well, he had players missing, very much so. Dyer obviously out needing surgery. Hugo Lloris we knew was going to be out till the end of the season. Romero not able to pick from. So, Fraser Forster was in goal. You had your back 4 of Emerson Royale, Davinson Sanchez, Clement Lenglet, Ben Davies. Your midfield tight men, Bissouma and Skip. Højbjerg obviously wasn't available either. So Bissouma back in with Skip, and then Porro, Kulusevski, Son and Kane make up the rest of the starting lineup. It was interesting to look at the bench, but in terms of the youngsters, it was just nice to see some of them get a chance. Obviously, Pat Matassar has been a first team player all season. He managed to get some minutes. Richarlison came on, and there was a debut for Matthew Craig. Lucas Moura obviously came on and got the goal that we were just praying that he'd get in his last game. George Abbott took the field as well. So it was nice for a couple of Spurs youngsters to come on and make their professional debuts for us. But let's talk about their performances then. So we'll start with Fraser Forster. Didn't really have too much to do until 35 minutes when he tipped over a loop-in header. Made a good block after the hour mark. Couldn't really do much about Harrison's low shot into the corner. and then saved well from Aronson late on with a brave block. Emerson Royale picked out Porro with a good early ball in the build-up to Kane's opener. Solid presence down the right. Happy with his performance. Davinson Sanchez, he actually had some shaky moments with his technique, which was failing him in the first half, but he did improve in the second period, so not going to grumble too much about him. Clement Longley made an important block in the second half from Ayling. In the first half from Ayling, and then the second half was solid presence in the back line, really. I don't know how much of a compliment you can give to the defence when you look at the stats of Leeds. They didn't really cause us too many problems in terms of quality. Then Ben Davies made a sliding block to deny Ayling in the moments before Longley did. Will have been disappointed to see Harrison's shot go through his legs, but he mopped up plenty of the stuff down his left flank. Then Yves Bissouma, another bright display in midfield. And this bodes well for next season. Like, obviously, when he came in, Conte very much said that tactically things, just weren't sinking in. He had a bit of a free roll with Brighton, was able to move about as much as he wanted. And I think Ryan Mason has been clever and allowed him a little bit more space. That hasn't restricted him so much, and that's really where he benefits. So he had some really good touches, progressive play. Looking forward to what we can see of Bissouma next season, because I was worried for a minute that, had the pressure of playing for a club like Spurs gotten to him. And I think we can all see now that it wasn't. It was purely Conte holding him back. Then his midfield partner, Oliver Skipp, made some good blocks and worked hard. Pretty much it. Pedro Porro made a really good run before feeding Son in the build-up to Kane's early strike. Then he added to the scoreline himself, running onto Kane's deflected pass, buried that shot in the far corner. He also got an assist after breaking up the pitch and teeing up Kane for his second. And, he was... Between him and Kane, they were pretty much the man of the match. They could share it. Kulusevski had a big chance to play Son through after breaking up the pitch on 20 minutes, but underhit his pass at the crucial moment. Worked hard, but once again, didn't really have as much impact. And that's been his problem all season. He'll admit that himself. He's not stupid. Sonny grabbed an early assist with good awareness with his pass to Kane in the box within 2 minutes. Was a constant threat to Leeds on the break, and they didn't really know how to handle him. But he was kind of good without being great. Decent performance from him. Harry Kane, as we know, struck early with a firm effort when he was left unmarked from 9 yards. Then showed some lovely skill before driving up the pitch, and his pass eventually found Porro to score for a deflection. He then made it 30 Premier League goals for the season with a lovely curling finish, which actually made him the first player in Premier League history. Another record, I know. So 350 of goal in his career, ridiculous amount for us now. And then to be the first player in Premier League history to score 30 plus goals in 2 38-game seasons. The guy's a machine, and this is in a really poor season for us. And then he also set up Richarlison for a good late chance as well that he didn't take. So then talking about the subs, Pat Matassar played a calm header into the path of Porro to set us away for the third goal. Lovely little bright cameo from the young midfielder. Hasn't had as many minutes this season as I think he would have wanted. Richarlison sent through by Kane in the final 10 minutes, but his shot hit his shot at Robles, and then the keeper denied him again soon after. Matthew Craig with his debut by Mason with 12 minutes to go produced a tidy little display. Lucas Moura, bless him, signed off with a wonderful goal, beating 3 players and then dinking the shot past the keeper, with every Spurs player, including the bench, running over to hold him aloft in front of the travelling fans. Look, it was a really nice moment. I feel sorry for him. He's had a season that's been riddled with injury. He then obviously at crucial times when he's come in this season has underperformed. I think he knew it was his last season. He's put pressure on himself to perform in a squad that hasn't been performing. So he obviously had the sending off. He also had the poor back pass that cost us against Liverpool. He then, for the under-21s, or whichever side it was relegated with them. Couldn't do enough to help us in our last home game of the season, and it was a shame because of the result. A lot of Spurs fans left, and when the players were doing their walk around, Lucas Moura, who it should have been all about that day, didn't have as many people to congratulate him and say goodbye. There were still a few there, but just not enough. And it was a very emotional day for him. He's a very emotional person. Clearly loves the club, and I'm just glad that he could sign off with a wonder goal, because otherwise he would have only been remembered for the 3 goals against Ajax. And he's better than that. And then finally, George Abbott, another Tottenham debut, and it would have been a great experience for the youngster. So yeah, in terms of the way we played, I think a lot of Spurs fans are happy with that. I mean, at points, I know it sounds terrible. I was like, because I didn't trust the result of Aston Villa to beat Brighton, I was a bit like, please don't win. Please don't win. I don't want Europa Conference League football. And it does sound terrible, and I should always want us to do really well, but I see the bigger picture, and I just want us to be able to reset, start again. I want a new manager to come in without this ridiculous notion of having to play Thursday games, because it really stretches the squad. We don't know who's going to stick around. There's been talk of contracts being torn up and all sorts. And part of the reason why I haven't actually done a video on any of the transfer links recently is because what's the point? It's almost like saying to you guys, I'm putting this video out as clickbait, because how can we realistically go after any players when we haven't got a manager or a director of football? It's absolutely crazy. It's the wrong thing to do for a club, just to sign people and then for a new manager go, here you go, these are the players we signed. We've got no budget left to bring in anyone you want, but deal with this. So, look, I know plenty of you would have seen transfer links, and you've probably been watching people's stories, but look, take it all with a pinch of salt, to be honest. Everything could change. It depends on the formation that a manager wants to play. We've basically signed loads of wing backs, and we could have a manager that comes in that wants to play 4 at the back. And that changes everything. That means players are going to have to be sold, they're going to have to go back out on loan, or they're going to have to learn to develop into a left or right back. With the relegation of some of these teams, if you look at Southampton, there's a possibility of looking at someone like Ward-Prowse. I think we could do with a player of him. I don't think he'd be a starter every week, but he just gives us something different. Obviously, James Maddison, definitely an option, but I think there'll be a few teams after his signature. Yuri Tielemans is another player that could come in depending on which of our midfielders go out. Look, so there's options. But it's going to be a big job, isn't it? Massive job for whoever comes in, and it just seems like nobody wants the job at the moment. We're being turned down left, right and centre. But let's talk a little bit about Ryan Mason, because look, results wise he did a better job last time, but he has said himself he thinks that they've done a better job this time round, and maybe they have. It's a more difficult situation. When Jose Mourinho left, it was a disappointing situation, but this time round we've been in a mess since really Pochettino left, and it's just got more and more difficult. So this time it was much harder. The fans were kind of done with it all. So he was asked, can you sum up your emotions after that? A win with positives, but not enough to get you into Europe. He was like, absolutely, we had a job to do today, and all we could do was come and win the game in difficult circumstances. We did that, and I think we're good value for it as well. We scored some really good goals, but also defended our box really well. So I was pleased with today and how today went. Obviously, the bigger picture is disappointment over how the season has gone as a whole, because we finished outside Europe for the first time in a long time. We need to make sure that doesn't happen again. So I think it was 14 years it's been since we finished outside of a European spot. He was then asked about Harry Kane, and making another 30 goals for the season. Can you put into words how impressive that is? And also, what's interesting about his 30 plus goal seasons, he hasn't won the Golden Boot with either of those. So the first time round when he scored more than 30 goals, Mo Salah won the Golden Boot. And then this time round he scores more than 30 goals and Erling Haaland goes on to win it. And what's incredible, everyone was talking about how much of a beast Haaland is with all the goals he scored. He scored 36 for Man City. It slowed down a lot after the World Cup. Harry Kane in a poor Spurs side has managed to score more than 30 goals. So, look, do you know what I'm saying? There's if Harry Kane had been in that Man City side, I am telling you now, he would have scored more goals than Erling Haaland in the Premier League. Um, but also, there's been a World Cup in this season, and that was disappointing in itself for England. So yeah, he was asked about him, and he said, I think that he probably doesn't get the appreciation he should. The goals, yes, outstanding. The 30-goal season in the Premier League is incredible, but also his overall performances are just outstanding. And I think as well, to go through what happened in the World Cup from a mental point of view, to come back on what he's done for the past 4 or 5 months, I think it speaks volumes for the player as a person. For the player and the person. He was then asked about his own future. What will happen next with you? Will you sit down with Daniel Levy in the next few days? He then said, I think there's some huge decisions to make for the football club. First of all, it's to understand who we want to be and where we want to going forward. Then it's realising who fits that, members of staff and also players as well. It's an important few weeks now, and hopefully we make the right decisions. He said, could that be a future role for Pedro Porro, playing even further up the pitch than a wing-back does? He said possibly, because he affects games of football, he scores and he creates goals. I thought today's performance was excellent going forward, and he also had the discipline in helping the team from a defensive point of view also. We're very pleased with his impact. We know it's very difficult to come into the Premier League halfway through the season, and I think his character and his personality has allowed him to be some sort of success. He was asked about Lucas Moura. Was it the perfect final moment for Lucas Moura? Yes, he deserved it. It's probably the kind of moment he'd have been dreaming of last night, and thankfully he came on. He was in the position where he could help the team. The goal itself was outstanding. We're all very happy for him. He was then asked about Perisic and Højbjerg not making the squad, and he was asked if it was through injury. The answer to that was yes. He was asked about, when you say huge decisions for this club, what do you mean by that? He then laughed and said, a manager. Honestly, I think, as I said, we probably need to understand where we want to go and who we want to be, and that's the most important thing. Once you decide that, then you can employ the people that fit that, and then I think everyone is quite clear on the direction we would like to go. We have quite a big squad. Whoever is in charge in pre-season, there are a lot of players and decisions to make. Ultimately, I think we need to get back to who we want to be, who our fans want us to be, and then going forward we'll have better results on a more consistent basis. This club should be aiming for higher, for the best, shouldn't it? Blah, blah, blah. Not an important question. He was asked about the youngsters, about bringing them on late for their debuts, and would he like to see Spurs get back to having a young core of players like we did under Poch? And he was like, look, I think obviously that period we were quite fortunate. We had some outstanding young players. He said, I'm taking myself out of that as I don't want to blow my own trumpet. But we had Harry Kane, Andros Townsend, Alex Pritchard, Adam Smith. It's interesting he talks about Pritchard and Adam Smith, because Pritchard was one of those ones that I think the fans were really hoping would go on to do something great for us. It didn't work out. And Adam Smith himself didn't really have an impact in the first team at all. There were others that had a bit more of a role. You talk about Ryan Mason's own midfield partner under Sherwood was Nabil Bentaleb. Didn't mention him at all. But he said, look, the last, those two lads that came on, I said it to them afterwards, that they are an example of what an academy player should look like in terms of their work rate. He said, I've been in the academy, I know both of them very well, and that's not a gift for either of them. That's hard work, consistency every day, doing it right, so they deserve that moment. And I really value the young players in the squad, because when you've got a player that feels the club and knows what it's like to represent the football club, it can be powerful. I think that's kind of a little dig to other players, saying, look, you should be proud to wear the badge. Fair enough. He said, he was asked, is this you signing off now, and how do you look back on this experience? He said, when I go on my summer holidays, I would hope and expect that everyone inside of our training ground knows who I am, who my team is, and what we stand for. The hope and expectation is that you guys and everyone else sees it too. I know we've done a great job, I really do. The circumstances were very difficult. I think anyone in the world coming into this situation for 6 games, coming off the back of what happened and the position we were in, was going to find it tough. Also, if you add into that being on an interim basis, where there's uncertainty, it makes it even tougher. But we've stuck to what we believe in. We've transitioned a little bit in a short space of time, and the players have responded. They've given us everything, and ultimately, that's all I can ask. Now, about Ryan Mason, the thing that kind of impresses me with him, I still don't think he's ultimately ready for the job. But what impresses me is he tweaked things in games, he made changes in a positive way. The players were clearly playing for him, they responded. There's probably a lot of not bad eggs, but there'll be a lot of people within the squad that are just really fed up of everything that's been going on. By the sounds of it, the Hugo Lloris situation where he was taken off at half time. I know they say it was an injury, but from what I'm told, there was a big kick-off in the changing room. The Eric Dyer situation, I think a lot of people thought at the time maybe it's a similar thing, but not at all. So Eric Dyer has had a niggling injury for quite a while, and they knew at some point he was going to need surgery. And that they just decided to take it when they did. It was a situation that was becoming unmanageable, and I think, some of his performances are obviously going to be down to the fact that he's just not having a great season. But that injury definitely has probably prevented him from performing to the level he wants. There would have been times where he's jumping for headers, he might have thought twice about it. And certainly it would explain this habit that he's had this season against quicker strikers of just trying to sort of stand them up rather than trying to force them into a change of direction because he's terrified of being beaten for pace. But I think also he had a bit of the Ryan Sessegnon mentality, thinking, look, if I push this and get into a one-on-one foot race, I'm probably going to do myself a bit more damage. So I think that kind of might have added to it. I'm not excusing the season he's had by any chance, but I think that played a part. And I think considering the injuries we've had, the form the players have been in, Ryan Mason's done a good job. To have to bring Davinson Sanchez in, a player that's probably had his worst season for Spurs and really lost the fan base, to have to bring him in to that game, and with a change of formation, because we've been working with 3 centre-backs all season, to throw him into a back four where he's one of 2 centre-backs, it's difficult. I think he's done really well. I like the way Ryan Mason speaks to the media. I think he's sensational with that. He talks really well. He knows the club. He's an intelligent young man. I'm sure he's going to have a great career. And I wonder what happens to him now. Does he step away this summer and say, do you know what, I am going to go out on my own and see what I can do, build my career? Or does he have the conversation with Daniel Levy and Daniel says, look, whoever comes in as manager next, we're going to tell them we need you in the first team somewhere, continue your development, and then after that maybe bang, you step in and then you're ready. I don't know. It's a difficult one to call. I suppose if he goes away from the club, it's not going to matter too much because he knows the club inside out. So he could probably go away for a few years, come back, and he really knows what he's going to be doing. And it will just give him a chance to develop himself in a first team capacity anyway. But look, that's all I want to talk about, really. It's been a poor season. It was a very bad end to the season. We're a club that's kind of in decline. But by not being in Europe next season, I think it's the perfect opportunity to at least turn something around, focus on a few of the competitions, and the cups. Hopefully, have a decent run in that. The Harry Kane situation is going to be one that we're going to have to keep an eye on pretty much all summer. But he's limited where he can go. He doesn't want to leave the Premier League because he wants to break Alan Shearer's record, which is 47 goals off now. So that's achievable in the next 2 seasons. So if he stays at Spurs for one more season, he might get another 25 goals, and then if he leaves on a free, so be it. But I think if he leaves on a free, he'll still stay in the Premier League, break that record, and then he'll go abroad. So wherever he goes to in the Premier League, I'm assuming he will try and sign a short contract. But I honestly can't see him. I can't see him forcing a move because I don't think anyone's going to want to pay the money for him that we're going to ask for. And look, honestly, he cost us nothing. So I know not getting any money for him just seems ridiculous, especially when whoever he goes to is really going to strengthen that side. But look, it's the situation we're in. It's our own fault. We got him to sign a ridiculously long contract. and that didn't work out for him because he wanted to move and he couldn't have it because of the length of contract he was on. And now that's going to kind of come back on us, and that's now going to swing into his favour, where he's like, I don't need to sign another contract. I can do the one more year, see where we're at, and then leave. So the ball's very much in his court, as well as Daniel Levy's. Daniel Levy can force him to stay for another year, but Harry Kane could use that year as an opportunity to go, do you know what? Now I can go wherever I go. Daniel Levy can't dictate it. He can't restrict me. I can go to a rival if I have to, which might ruin his legacy a bit, but who knows? This transfer window is going to be interesting. There's going to be players galore going out. Some of them might have contracts torn up. There's probably going to be a lot of people going out on loan if we don't get the deals we want. It'll be a fun one, and I'm sure you guys will love it. I'll be doing videos constantly throughout it because I know how much people love the transfer videos. They're the most popular ones all the time. I think one of them got like over 18,000 views in a very short space of time. So don't worry, there'll be plenty of transfer talk going around. But look, I've been Kieran from Speaking Spurs. Thank you for sticking around for that one. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. And until next time, come on you Spurs.